Oh, hey. Computer is doing weird stuff with the camera things again, so I'm just going to do this. Preface this by saying, yes, I liked episode 5 of Book of Boba Fett. Of course, there's a lot of cool things to it. It was kind of like, well, let me go with this. So, in general, liked it. Um, Progressed story in a couple different ways. Good characterization, good acting, good directing. Now, this is in the context of not having the last episode of 2 of Book of Boba Fett and not having a season 3 of Mandalorian yet. So I understand there's a certain contextual uh, lacking, so to speak, here. I understand that. A couple little issues with the episode. Number one, it's kind of two different episodes. It's two short episodes. There's a whole thing with the the two Mandalorians, the Vizsla and the armorer. Ugh, there we go. And that was pretty good. And then uh, the sort of car fetish montage episode at the latter half. So I'm as kind of fun as some of it was. I'll get to that in a second. But in general, as kind of fun as some of that is, it's still like a car fetish thing, which I do not have, and I don't particularly care for. But getting to the first part first. Okay, so the first half, where so we're bringing in some stuff from Rebels, basically about the dark saber and how it is difficult to be used if your sort of mind isn't right for it, which makes sense. It's because it's kind of got some Jedi Force stuff going on with it, considering it's a practically a lightsaber. So, having Din Djarin be conflicted not only with missing Grogu and wanting to make sure he's okay, but also, I guarantee he doesn't want the whole um, the responsibility for having potentially to be the leader of Mandalore and the Mandalorians. He doesn't want that, so like Sabine didn't. So yeah, it's going to be, difficult for him because he's got all these conflicting things going on in him and isn't just sort of able to, what? No, this is mine. I deserve it. Let's do this. This is going to help me with my focus, sort of thing. So that makes sense. My so and then bringing in some other lore, I have to say, taking out the spearhead of that Beskar spear kind of hurt a little bit because I don't, man, that was such a pretty spear for me. I like spear work anyway, and I know a couple of spear routines, and I'm just thinking of playing my Taiji spear routine with that Beskar spear, and then the scenes they had with was it Dan and Asanto's daughter fighting Ahsoka with that thing, and then him fighting Moff Gideon with it. I'm like, no, that spear is cool. Like I really liked it. And then taking out the spearhead of it kind of hurt my little kung fu heart a little bit. But it's really disappointing to have Din then be sort of still codependent basically on the creed and the religion and the armorer and her narrow dogmatic view of their creed. Now, and it gave you, but it gave you some insight with it. It gave you some insight that her narrow dogmatic view of the creed is going to be something that got reinforced after the Night of a Thousand Tears, because to them that's what saved their life. Oh, goodbye, cat. Okay, to them it's what saved their lives, right? So I can understand having that that sort of view of things with it. Oh, and also props for making the Night of a Thousand Tears look like an Terminator. Have the almost nuclear like explosion, and then the droids coming in and picking people off and stuff. Looked very Terminator. Cool. I dug that. But having Mando be that still sort of enthralled with it, where he's like, "Oh my God, how can I repent?" Like, I kind of thought maybe you were over that a little bit. I would have liked you to be over that a little bit, admittedly. So, and then I'm sorry, I can't not think about Purple Rain. Oh, the only way you can make amends is by the waters under the mines of Mandalore. So you have to purify yourself in the waters of Lake Minnetonka. Really? Jon Favreau, you really went Prince on this? Actually, I can't really complain. Going Prince on stuff is pretty tight. So, but so he's going to do that? Like, really? Like, you can't. Hopefully, I'm gonna get to that in a minute. So that part was a little disappointing, where having Mando still like, how can I make, the way he sounds like, how can I make amends? Like, please, mommy, don't be mad at me, sort of thing. I was like, that's disappointing. And then you get to Tatooine and Amy Sedaris, and she's still kind of plucky and funny. But the whole thing with them getting that Naboo starfighter. Okay, again, first of all, I don't really care about cars. I don't really care about the whole rebuilding a car fetish sort of thing. I don't care about any of that. I really don't. And then I mean, this thing was loaded to the depths with Easter eggs, which is fun, but having all like the race, the Anakin's little pod race sort of things, and was sort of like, okay, talking about Beggar's Cannon and having a Womp Rat in there brings back, Star Wars a little bit. And I say Star Wars is in episode 4. I refuse to call it, TNH, because that's not its name. And it's like, okay. And then the little stuff with the New Republic X-Wings kind of grilling them like cops and everything else like that. Like, oh, okay. But it's ostensibly like a little car jerk off thing, and I don't really care. However, having him have a starfighter for his ship is actually kind of stupid. It doesn't make any sense, because if he's going to be, traveling around the way he wants to be traveling around, if he's going to still stick around doing bounty hunting stuff or anything else like that, he needs like a home. And he needs a ship that he can kind of use as, somewhere to bunk. It might not be like, all right, this isn't we're going to be where I live, like, a Millennium Falcon situation or the way the Razor Crest was before. But he needs someplace that at least he can bunk. He needs a place where he can store his weapons and his tools and his supplies. He needs somewhere that he can put people whom he is bounty hunting, either doing the carbon freezing or having some sort of brig that he can throw them in. He needs something that has more space and is more reasonable for what's going to be his like chosen profession. Having him run around in a starfighter doesn't make any sense, really. And say he gets Grogu back, so we're just going to throw him back at where the droid's supposed to be. You're going to throw the prisoners back where the astromech that you didn't take is going to be. So you get a little hot rod episode with it, but it's like, so what? It doesn't make any sense. Unless he ends up like, all right, this is just to get me to tool around a little bit until I can get something bigger. And he gets something big enough where then he can dock that thing with, like maybe something like the Ghost, where he can maybe dock it on top or underneath or something along those lines. But it really doesn't make any sense for a bounty hunter, who's sort of transient in a lot of ways, to have something like that. Okay, my biggest sort of issue is there's no Boba Fett. Sure, Fennec Shan comes at the end and recruits Din, and his thing is like, no, it's on the house, and hopefully, this is one of the things I was going to say before, is hopefully hooking back up with Boba Fett, another Mandalorian, reminding him that not all Mandalorians have to be up in the Creed sort of thing. Like, he's still successful, he's still around, he's still badass. I don't have to be this fundamentalist anymore. Helps him continue that sort of evolution, helps Din continue his evolution with that. So I'm kind of hopeful with that. And, I don't, I would like Boba Fett to get the Darksaber. I know that means he's going to have to defeat Din, but I kind of want that, and I kind of want that mostly because having Boba Fett as the new Mandalore, building a new Mandalore as the leader title, and then building a new Mandalore as the planet, is kind of straight up from the now Legends, quote unquote, material. So in the books, that's what Boba Fett was doing. And I think he had like an adopted daughter and all this other stuff too. So it might be a way to get some of that, quote, Legends, end quote, material into this. And I think that he would probably like and do better as a leader of Mandalore than Din. I don't think he wants that. It might not even be good for him to do that. So that might be nice. And I saw one thing, I forget who it was. I watched like 2-3 videos about this. It might have been Star Wars Theory, maybe. But again, not having Boba Fett in this episode, to me, is a huge mistake. Because so far you have these other 4 episodes where you do have Boba Fett, but you were setting up his, how to get out of the Rancor pit, what he was doing between then and showing up with the Mandalorian, with Din Djarin as the Mandalorian. Okay, I get that. Okay, I get that he wants to set up his whole sort of, criminal underworld, daimyo sort of thing. The way he's kind of going about it isn't very Boba Fett. I was talking to a buddy of mine, and yeah, both of us kind of miss the Boba Fett that is basically like, hey, Vader, go F yourself. Give me my money. Don't F with me, Vader, or I'll F with you. Kind of miss that one a little bit. I have that whole other video where I'm sort of like, people are bagging on Book of Boba Fett, and they really shouldn't. And overall, I still hold to that, which is why I feel that having an entire episode where Boba Fett doesn't show up at all and is having, is basically a Mandalorian 2.5 episode is a mistake. And it's not a bad episode, it's not a bad show, but I think it's a big mistake because it's taking, kind of what people are bagging on Boba Fett with, the Book of Boba Fett with, and then kind of showing that, oh yeah, you were right. We messed up, and you guys were right. This is a bad show, so we have to throw this in there in order to make it work. So it seems like kind of a desperate grab. But what I saw from, or heard, heard the video, I think it was a Star Wars Theory guy, I think. But he was saying that even though Boba Fett wasn't in this episode, it really was all about Boba Fett, especially the Mandalore Coven sort of stuff. So it was a way to introduce some of the history and backstory of Mandalore and being the Mandalore, as in the leader, and the, reestablishing the importance of the dark saber. So it was sort of like a setup episode, excuse me, for stuff that's going to be really important for Boba Fett. So maybe Boba Fett wasn't in it, but it's going to be, when you look back, about Boba Fett. I don't know how you can really justify that with the whole hot rod building sort of thing. But that first half with the Mandalorian coven, with the armor and that other, was it Pos, or the other Vizsla, that is going to end up directly being very important for Boba Fett in this last episode, episode 2 of the season. And I really hope so. I really hope it does have that payoff, because otherwise it's sort of like, you guys were admitting that, no, maybe you messed up on the show and we have to desperately throw Din Djarin at this to salvage this or something. So I still think the Book of Boba Fett's a good show. I still liked episode 5 overall. Again, the hot rod stuff I don't really care about, but I'm hopeful that in the context of the season as a whole, it will make sense, because otherwise it's sort of like, man, you guys messed up. You guys were thinking you messed up, and then got scared and scrambled, made this episode, and then it's like, oh, we can salvage the season or something. So it's a good episode. I have some problems with it. Mostly, again, not really having Boba Fett, and I think my biggest problem in terms of character development, again, is having him be all codependent over the religion. I know that's sort of like, it really seemed like he evolved past that. So hopefully, and again, I want to reiterate, I understand that the context of the entire season isn't there yet. The last episode or 2 or 3, however many episodes is left, aren't in the can. They're not, out there yet. We don't know what's going to happen or how it's going to evolve. I understand that. In the context of what we have right now and the show and the episode itself, I think it was a bad play. But we'll see. We'll see. So anyway, that's it. I just wanted to throw that out there real quick. I'm pretty happy I kept this under 20 minutes, so I'm just going to cut it off now. Bye.